Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Why We Become Sangha, a reply to an online friend from Tsem. I probably mispronounced that Sangha. I have no idea what that is, so let's gonna give this a shot.
For one to accept another person as a teacher, they do not need to be physically present or even necessarily physically have met the teacher. In the mind of the student, when they think this is my teacher, then it becomes the teacher. When you think like that very strongly, even without a formal ceremony or formal introduction, the person becomes your teacher. So therefore, it is possible to have faith and respect and also a draw to a person who we are karmically connected with. So in short, when we think the person is our teacher, then we should hold the person as our teacher and very loyally and very strongly and study the 50 verses of Guru devotion and also the teacher and disciple relationship as written by Tsongkhapa.
I mean, I can agree with that. I mean, when should Sadhguru ever pass away? His teachings online. You can consider most people that you don't necessarily meet in person as a teacher, so long as they have a teaching that's out there that you can that you can learn from. Again, you look at any of the books, the Upanishads, the any of the yogas. I think, well, I'm assuming there's like karma yoga and all these. There's kind of writings on it to how to do them properly. So yeah, although I know some are like, you don't know who exactly read it, but you can say like, there's a teacher that teaches you how to, or that wrote down some very important information that you can learn from. So again, whether it be Prashant or Sem or Swami Sarvapriyananda or Sadhguru or Taratmadanda, Swami Taratmadanda, any one of them can be your teacher, even though they've passed away, just because they have their books, their online course, and all that, and you can follow them. And make sure you get the teachings directly from their mouth, meaning that you watch a video and you see them speaking, as opposed to perhaps maybe one of their students that becomes a teacher. You could follow them too as well, but I would maybe say that that's not a direct following of, say, Sadhguru following one of his students, because that is, I will always say that a student, generally speaking, will have their own interpretation of it. That's why you should always go to the original source. So to the Vedas, if you follow it from someone, even if it's a school that's been following traditionally, there's always going to be, my opinion is, there's always going to be maybe a slight different interpretation of the original text, because we all have our biases. No matter how true you want to follow it, I think there's going to be at some point just a slight deviation from the original text. But that's going to happen for everyone, I think. And I think that can be okay, because we all live different lives and have different interpretation of life. And whatever works best for you, I think you should follow.
That would be very good. Next one is, in order to become a novice monk, one can be basically any age, but to become a fully ordained monk, a bhikshu, a gelong, you have to be above age 21. So to be a novice monk, you can hold the basic preliminary vows, and that one can be any age. Again, to become a fully ordained monk, you have to be a novice monk first. After becoming a novice monk, after the age of 21, then you are a fully ordained monk, a bhikshu, or in Tibetan, a gelong.
I'm assuming there's more requirements other than just an age too. I'm sure there's certain training and teachings that you have to follow and be able to recite to get to be a fully ordained, I hope.
It is possible to become a monk and outwardly live a layperson's life, working, paying bills, and taking care of responsibility, with a strong aspiration that one wishes to become a monk also outwardly, not only inwardly. Within the monk vows, you have the Tsawa Shi. Tsawa Shi, or the four main root vows, is the most important that one needs to hold and keep very sacred and keep very strong. So I would highly recommend for you now to read the monk verses, which you can Google online and find it. I think it should be on my blog also on a post, and read up on the monk vows, especially the 4 root vows, and feel and think as if you are a monk already, and then behave and act and do and speak and talk as if you are a monk. Many years ago when I was in Los Angeles, when I was living with the master, Geshe Surim Geltsen, I also expressed him my strong wish to become a monk. But because I had bills and I had payments and I had loans, I couldn't take off and leave the United States and go to India immediately. So it took me, from the time I wished to become a monk until I left, it was 5 or 6 years before I can accomplish it. So Geshe-la told me that although you are not a monk now, you should behave like one, act like one, speak like one, talk like one, and most important, think like one.
I will say this for that. And again, I'm sure no one would disagree with this. Yeah, you don't have to be a monk to act like a monk. And that being said, like, being kind, generous, and living, how to say, living without ego. You could say the ego, living without your ego, meaning that you don't take things for greed. Take what you need to live. Be generous. Be kind. And for me, I guess my requirements are just so much lower than that. It's like, there's nothing wrong with making a lot of money, so long as you do it, how do I say, rightfully. You're not doing it like a criminal, like a criminal would do it. I mean, like, you're not not haggling. You're not like breaking the law to make more money. You're not scamming people, kind of like that. I guess that's the right way to put it. You start a profession, you get a job, or you create your own business, and like even if you overprice something, this is really weird. Even if you overprice something, and if people are willing to pay for it, maybe not so bad. I know there's people out there that are what they call scalpers. That's the word, where they buy something and they say they buy it for $300, for example, and then they sell it for $600. I mean, no one is being forced to buy that for $600, but there are people out there who wants to do it. I think it's still scummy a bit, but people are willing to pay $600 for whatever that item is. I don't know. I'm still on the floor on that one. Still on the fence on that one. I'm all for people. They stayed out there to buy tickets for like 3-6 nights so they can buy it and sell it back. It's how some people do make their living. It's some people that say that's scummy. It's like, well, yeah, because they're not buying it for themselves. They're buying it to sell them to make money. Because there are people out there who are not willing to wait the time, but willing to pay a higher price to get the tickets. So they spent a week out there to sell that for double the price, So it's like, that's why I'm on the fence. I'm not too sure about it. But again, so long as it's not criminal, you're making money, it's fine.
Although you're not wearing the robes of a monk, or you are not in a monk environment and physically acting like a monk, the attitude should be one of a monk.
Mm-hmm.
This is what he told me. So when I actually take my monk vows, then it becomes very, very powerful, and it becomes very easy, and it's a very smooth transition.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to behave and act and think like you're a monk when you become a monk. You have to act and behave and think like one before you become one, so it becomes a very smooth transition.
Mm-hmm.
To take on the monk vows these days and to hold on to it for one day is equivalent to holding on to it for one lifetime during Buddha's time. So if we were to hold monk vows now or nun vows now, one day of holding our vows strongly and well, we collect the same amount of merit as if during Buddha's time we're holding our vows for a whole lifetime. And the reason is because it is more tough and more difficult to hold our vows these days. The obstacles are much more. Since the obstacles are much more, the merits are much more. Similarity.
Huh? There's more temptation now than there was in the past? I mean, I think I get what he's saying, but doesn't change the fact it's I don't know. I mean, I am kind of a bit confused. Like he says, it's tougher now, but this is a temptation that we've always had. You know, we always want something. Just what that something is has changed over time. Perhaps maybe there's more available. Maybe, but it's really weird to just to say that. One day of holding this vows is equivalent to an entire lifetime during Buddha's time. As though Buddha's time was, not hard at all. Compared to one day of today, that's a bit odd. I don't know. That's how I'm interpreting that. Am I wrong on that one?
And the reason we wish to become a monk is the monk is based on the self-liberation vows, pratimosha. And what we wish is that we see the faults, we see the disasters, we see the repercussions, and the repetitiveness, roboticness of samsaric life. How we just engage in actions that are robotic and repetitive but have no purpose. Seeing the faults of this in samsara, understanding the faults of this in samsara, we develop a very strong renunciation. When we develop the strong renunciation, we seek and we wish to go towards full enlightenment. Because we wish to go towards full enlightenment, then Lord Buddha has offered us the vows of a monk and a nun, which we can take, and upon taking them and living within the vows, we create the causes for nirvana or self-liberation. When these vows are taken with a motivation of benefiting others, then the power of the vows extend more and further and wider and much more bigger. So taking on the vows of a monk is very powerful. Taking on the vows of a monk or a nun is very powerful because one creates the causes for one to get the 5 senses under control. Think how difficult it is to control our speech, our thinking. Think how difficult it is to control our feelings, our attachments, and what we see and our desires. When we take the vows of a monk or a nun, we create the causes, and every day we collect the merit to control our 5 senses, to control our mind, that instead of it or they becoming objects or venues that create more sorrow, they become venues that create more peace and happiness. Ordinary people use their sight to find negative actions. They use their ear to listen to negative actions. They use their speech to perpetuate negative actions. And they use their mind to increase and plot and plan for more negative actions. Negative actions does not make a person negative, but negative actions arise from a person's ignorance. So negative actions and negative thought doesn't make a person evil or bad, but it's natural and spontaneous because of habituation and because of ignorance. So therefore, when we are not in control of our mind, we're not in control of our senses, and we're always looking for sensory gratification. And when we look for sensory gratification, this increases the desire and hatred and anger and attachment in our mind, which fuels the sensory attachments and fulfilling those attachments. And those attachments make us thirsty, and then we want to find more fulfillment, and then that makes us even more empty and more lonely, and it goes round and round and round and round.
Very interesting. Saying that we don't control the mind, and in Advaita Vedanta, it is talking about controlling your mind, your emotions, and all that, having control over your. Sadhguru even talks about having control over your body, your emotions, your actions, your thoughts, and having bad thoughts is karma. Bad planning, bad thoughts is bad karma, and this I notice a difference here. And I think Tibetan Buddhism versus Advaita Vedanta. There was another thing he said, but I can't remember now. It's mostly to deal with the fact of not controlling your mind. You have no control over your mind. I mean, my mind does go rampant sometimes, but it's never really bad thoughts. It's just it just thinks about a lot of things. Like when I get something, it just thinks of all the possibilities of opportunities or non-opportunities or blockage or pathways. That's how my mind works. when there's a problem, it thinks, okay, what's the problem? It could be this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. Ask this, ask this, ask this, ask this, so that it can narrow down what the solution or the problem can be. And whenever a ruling comes up, so for like a game, if something comes up, so there's a question, when you read it, it's like, oh, it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this, it could mean this, not this one, not this one, not this one. So it could mean any of these, depending on how it's worded, depending how it's said, and depending on how it's meant. That's kind of how my mind works, which I like it, honestly. I'm not saying I think of every possible solution or questions or answers or whatever, but it's at least it kind of attempts to solve the problem. But whether it be asking questions or finding different possible solutions to it. Anyway, it's weird. But yeah, do you control your mind? It's kind of difficult, but in terms of Advaita Vedanta, you can kind of silence it. But I guess perhaps maybe even in Advaita that your mind still can come off the leash. You're controlling your mind, and it'll eventually slip where you think of something that you're not trying to think of. Maybe? I don't know. Do you have absolute control in Advaita Vedanta? Do you have to have absolute control in that? To me, I would say no. You're fighting so much. But maybe you get so good at it that you don't have to, or your mind doesn't run rampant, or maybe, like for me, what I'm hoping for is that my mind just runs rampant. I don't care. It's like I let it do its own thing, and whenever I need it, I call it back. It's like, hey, come here. I need you to think for me real quick. I don't know. But that's my method. I look at a problem, my mind just a whole bunch of stuff comes out, and then I pick it up from there. If it thinks about something, I don't try to fight it, because that's fighting against something, But luckily enough, my mind is not, thinking of bad things.
So therefore, taking the vows of a monk or a nun, the main purpose is to cut our attachment, cut the basis of all that increases our attachment through the five senses. All that increases our attachment through the five senses are cut by taking on the vows. And therefore, when we take on the vows and we hold it well, we gain control of our mind, we gain control of our five senses. Therefore, our five senses are used as venues to create virtue, peace, happiness, and liberation for ourselves and others, as opposed to our five senses being used to create more desire, more anger, more thirst, more lack of peace. So therefore, holding on to these vows are extremely important. And when we think about it, we should think about Lord Buddha very strongly. And we should take refuge in Lord Buddha very strongly. And we should think about Lord Buddha very strongly. And by thinking about Lord Buddha very, very, very strongly, we take refuge in Lord Buddha. We take refuge in Lord Buddha, and we realize that Buddha became a Buddha by the practice of the Dharma. And thereby we take refuge in the Holy Dharma. When we take refuge in the Holy Dharma, the Dharma has all the methods to eradicate every single neurosis and negative thought and negative action and its propensity within our mind stream. And therefore, Dharma is the real path that brings genuine happiness, genuine peace, and genuine fruition of good actions. So therefore, we take refuge in the Dharma, realizing that when we practice and when we engage in the Dharma, it has the real, genuine methods for bringing peace and an end to this robotic existence that we are stuck in over and over, life after life. And thereby, those who embody these teachings, those who embody and practice and learn and meditate and engage in the teachings are Sangha, monks and nuns, Dharma brothers and sisters, who give up their worldly attachments and they engage in the Dharma strongly, and therefore the Dharma arises in their mind in form of eradication of these attachments. So when the Sangha had the eradication of these negative states of mind, and positive states of mind arises, and therefore their actions are virtuous, they become a true Sangha, and someone that we can take refuge in and we can take inspiration towards. So therefore, realizing the power of the Buddha and his and her enlightenment, and the holy Dharma that is the cause of this enlightenment, and then the Sangha who embody the Dharma and practice the Dharma where we can receive the Dharma from. We take refuge in the holy Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha from our heart, and we develop renunciation, and from renunciation we develop a true longing to escape the unhappiness of ordinary, robotic, empty, attached life. And therefore, I wish to become a monk, I wish to become a nun, so that I can live the rest of my life in spiritual peace, in peace, in mental peace, where I am protected by my vows from being attached to another person romantically, from being attached to money, materialistically, to being attached to clothes and perfumes and ornaments and fun and music and all these things that when I engage in, they only bring more and more emptiness. So I'm protected from this. And within this protection, I am able to have the space and the time and the peace to practice Dharma. And therefore, when I practice the Dharma, I develop my mind. When I develop my mind, I become spiritually aware and I grow spiritually, so that in the end, whatever I've missed in my life as a monk or a nun doesn't become something I've missed. It is something that I have avoided that would have caused a lot of problems. And therefore, no regrets come from avoiding all secular activities, all secular so-called fun. Therefore, being a monk and a nun is pure protection.
It's weird to say protection from fun and attachment to those things, to especially say like a romantic relationship. I wonder, is it bad to have attachment to someone if it's virtuous? Is it possible to be attached to someone virtuously? So, say for example, your wife or husband or child or children or your parents. It would be kind of weird to. I don't know. I mean, I think of Swami Vivekananda and the things I've heard. I've heard that he still cries. He still, in some sense, suffer in the body. And what I mean by that is that it still feels pain, sadness, and all of that, but his atma, his true self, is obviously unaffected by this. So having this understanding that you are never affected by anything in this world, sadness and all that, but the body still does, is that still okay? Your body suffers, but your true self does not. Understanding that you can still feel emotion, still feel attachment to people, but knowing that your true self is not affected by those things. It's really weird to how does that work? I mean, if you say, oh yeah, my true self does not attach itself to anything, it doesn't suffer, but this body does. It's like, I guess, that distinct separation between your true self and your body. I wonder if I'm sure I have, to some degree, have that detachment of a feeling and my true self. It's just I never ever think about necessarily the detachment unless I do not want to feel that. It's really weird to say that. That I don't want to feel a feeling, but the feeling is there. That I know it's there and I feel it, but I choose not to feel it. For example, if I guess if I get mad at something, but I think it's stupid for me to get mad at that. So I was like, I think to myself, like, I tell my emotion that's dumb, and even though the body feels it, I don't act upon it. I don't do anything. I don't register that emotion externally or internally, even though it is inside. It's not too frequent that happens. It happens very infrequently, because generally speaking, I get along with a lot of people, so it's never usually an issue. But when it does crop up, very rarely, I do notice that sometimes. I don't know if that's a thing though. I don't know.
It's like wearing a fireproof suit that even though you're near the fire, your body does not burn because you're protected. So by having the vows of a monk or a nun, we are protected from the fires of passion, anger, attachment, desire, robotic life, and basically wasting our life on doing things that bring no benefit. So it's like having a fireproof suit against samsara and its burning activities that bring no satisfaction whatsoever. So therefore, before we become a monk, before we become a nun, we should behave like one, think like one, act like one, and we should focus that we are like a monk and behave like one. And how do we behave like a monk or a nun? To be extremely humble, to be respectful of others, to be infinitely patient in other people's behaviors that we might find disturbing. We should be infinitely tolerant of others, and we should use our body and our speech and mind to bring a benefit to others, to increase other people's faith in the Dharma, not in a showy way, not in a way of showing off, but by practice. So therefore, as a monk and a nun, what is most important is that we behave in such a way that increases other people's faith, increases other people's practice. And if we're highly attained, we can use many methods to bring other people to the Dharma, to tame their minds to the Dharma. But as ordinary monks and nuns, we should be very humble, we should be very caring, we should take care of others when they're ill, we should make sure they're fed, we should protect them from the elements, we should focus out and make sure that others are comfortable, at least those around us, as a beginning. So to have the aspiration to become a monk, to think of Lord Buddha very strongly, and to have the aspiration to be a monk, and to pray to become a Sangha, a monk or a nun, is extremely virtuous. Remember, the lineage of the Sangha, monk and nunhood, arose not from a Tibetan Lama or Indian Pandit, but it arose from Lord Buddha himself. Therefore, whatever has arisen from the mind of an enlightened being such as Buddha can only bring benefit. In today's world, when you tell people you wish to become a monk or nun, it creates fear and disgust in their minds, thinking that you're wasting your life. The truth is, they are wasting their life. When you become a monk and a nun, you don't waste your life. If you waste your life by becoming a monk and nun, then Buddha Shakyamuni would have wasted his life.
I mean, really weird. I don't know if there's people who think that you're wasting your life. Maybe, I'm sure there are some, but I think most, like, as long as you're okay with that, I think most people would be like, it's fine. I mean, that's your life to live. Most people in the U.S. will say, it is your life, your choice. You can do what you want, and some people will probably say, "Are you sure that's what you want to do?" They'll probably say it's probably very hard, or you have to give up everything. Give up the material life. But I don't know if anyone. I don't think a lot of them will have that. There are some. I wouldn't doubt that.
That's not possible. So therefore, I rejoice in what your aspiration is, and I offer prayers to the three jewels that your aspirations come true. Most important now is to think and behave and act like a monk, study up on the monk vows, and understand that why you want to become a monk. Understand that well within yourself. Actually, lay people are not allowed to study the vows of a monk or a nun, but in this case, it's an exception because you wish to become one. I wish you very well, and I offer my prayers to Lord Buddha for your success. Tsem.
It's really weird. It says that lay people cannot study this. That's weird. Because, well, there's no guarantee that the people who study it, while at the moment may want to become a monk, but then change their mind after reading it. Or people who maybe don't want to become a monk, but are bored and decided to read the vows, and then all of a sudden they had an epiphany or a change of mind, and then said, you know what, I do want to become a monk after reading this. It's really weird to have that restriction. Lay person cannot. Let me rewind that.
Lay people are not allowed to study the vows of a monk or...
Lay people cannot. Actually, lay people. I think lay means common. Common people, common folks. Oop, I gotta put in my password again. Jesus. Oop, oh my God! If I know what my password is, actually. Okay, so lay people. It's really, really weird. I say it's really, really weird just because it's. Why is it unattainable? This should be something for everyone. It shouldn't be only these people, but not these. Yes, no. Yeah, no. I don't really like that. A person without profession or specialized knowledge in a particular subject. Only because I think everyone is a lay person. In the very beginning, no one is just necessarily automatically born, freaking enlightened, if you could say. Sadhguru wasn't. He was rambunctious in his younger life, and I'm sure. Oh yeah, I mean, I don't know if Lord Buddha was either. Gautama Buddha. I mean, he was just locked in his palace because of his father, afraid of him becoming a great sage one day instead of becoming a king. But yeah, even Buddha himself wasn't. So it's really weird. I mean, I wouldn't say Buddha was a lay person, but he end up. I don't know if you consider him giving up his kingdom and his stuff, everything. Does that make him a lay person? He's no longer rich. He's no longer a prince. He's no longer. Well, I mean, he was highly educated, I'm sure, being a prince, so perhaps that will make him an exception to not be a lay person. But yeah, I mean, it'd be really weird for Buddha to say, "Oh, everyone's a lay person. I can't teach you." That just seems. I don't like that. I don't like the like. This reminds me of like a lot of Abrahamic religion where they use the religions like, I have the book here, you can't read this, I know what the word of God is because I can read it. If only you could read it, then you would know what the word is, but you can't. None of you can. So I know what the word is. It's kind of like that little barrier that says you can't become like me because I can read and you can't. And even if you can read, because I am born of a higher stature than you, that you can't become. I really don't like that. That disgusts me. Well, not disgusts me. I just don't like it. Disgust is a pretty strong word, but I just don't like that. That's just very fishy. Very um. I don't know what to call it. I'm too good for you kind of deal. So yeah. So I really went on about that one, didn't I? Anyways, I hope you understand what I'm getting at, and I don't, maybe I misunderstood that. Maybe there's a reason behind it, and I just don't know. Absolutely, very, very possible. It still doesn't change my mind. I don't like the fact that it says lay people can't have that. But I mean, if a lay person wants to be that, teach them. Uh, you know, like anyone else that wants to become it. It's not to say that they can become a monk, but you give them a shot. You teach them, you train them. Maybe they can become the lowest level monk or whatever, and then the best they can do is just take care of the monastery and pray every day. At least they tried. Don't just kick them out because they're a lay person or something. Anyways, let me know if I'm wrong about any of that. I wouldn't doubt I would be wrong about something. But interestingly, Sangha, monk, and nun are all in the same level as though it's a third category. I thought Sangha was an enlightened being, but no, he separated that in the speech. So I'm not exactly sure what a Sangha is. Actually, let me see if I can look that up. What is a Sangha? Sangha, Buddhist monastic order traditionally composed of 4 groups: monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen. What? It contains laymen and laywomen in here too. The Sangha is a part, together with the Buddha and Dharma teachings, of the threefold refuge, a basic creed of Buddhism. Traditionally composed of 4 groups: monks, nuns, laymen, and laywomen. I don't know. Oops. Association, assembly, company, or community. It's a Sanskrit word used in many Indian language. We're going to use as a surname. Anyways, that's my reaction to why we become Sangha. If you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.